Einar and Thorfinn are hard at work clearing the forest. They've already felled a tree, but now they're struggling to remove the stump. Thorfinn suggests cutting some of the roots, and they try pulling it out again. It still won't budge, so they cut a few more roots and try again. Finally, with a big heave, they manage to dislodge the stump. They take a well-deserved break. As they catch their breath, Einar muses aloud about how much easier it would be if they had a horse to help prepare the soil. Thorfinn points out that they didn't actually get a horse when they moved the lumber, they were just made to do the retainer's job for them. Einar looks disappointed, but Thorfinn suggests they keep working and asks if they should continue removing stumps or cut down some trees instead. Einar is hesitant and says he'd rather try asking for a horse first. Einar and Thorfinn march over to Ketil's house to ask for a horse. But their request is denied. There are simply not enough horses to go around, and other tasks require their use. As they turn to leave, a retainer appears and mocks them, comparing the two of them to livestock. Einar is frustrated by the situation and insists they need to talk to Ketil. He wants to explain that they need the horse not only for removing stumps but also for tilling the soil. Thorfinn, however, is less optimistic. He worries that if they go against the retainer's wishes, it will only make their lives more difficult. Einar snaps at Thorfinn, saying that they need to start growing crops and earning money to buy their freedom, and that they can't do that without a horse. Just then, an old man working in the field next to them overhears their conversation. He introduces himself and asks about their situation. When he learns that they need a horse, he offers to lend them one. Einar is overjoyed, but he wonders who this kind stranger is. Moments later, the old man, Sverkel, puts Einar and Thorfinn to work picking rocks from his field. They work diligently, but Einar can't help but wonder how long they'll be at it. When he asks, Sverkel replies that they'll keep picking until there are no more rocks to pick. After finishing the task, Einar is eager to receive the promised horse, but Sverkel tells them to follow him and proceeds to give them more chores, such as chopping firewood and fetching water. Einar starts to feel taken advantage of, but Thorfinn remains indifferent, explaining that they are slaves after all. Einar reminds him that they are Ketil's slaves, not Sverkel's. Sverkel overhears their conversation and clarifies that he's not interested in their personal circumstances. He's only concerned with the agreement they made. In exchange for borrowing the horse, they will do chores for him. Finally, Sverkel hands over the horse, and Einar and Thorfinn get to work removing stumps with newfound ease. Einar can't help but feel grateful to Sverkel, and he even starts to think he's a good man. Later, when they pick up and drop off the horse, Einar willingly performs the chores that Sverkel requests of him. As they continue to work, Einar becomes increasingly optimistic, thinking that they might be ready to sow their crops in time for the fall. He even wonders if Sverkel might lend them a plow. Thorfinn, on the other hand, is less familiar with farming, having spent most of his life on battlefields. Einar is surprised, but assures Thorfinn that he knows what he's doing and that he should leave the farming to him. As Einar and Thorfinn return the horse, they are confronted by some suspicious retainers. The retainers demand to know who gave them permission to take the horse. Einar confidently explains that Sverkel lent it to them, but the retainers are skeptical. They claim that they don't know a man named Sverkel who lives in the area and accuse Einar and Thorfinn of stealing the horse. One of the retainers looks closely at the horse and begins to doubt their story, wondering aloud if the farm even has such a horse. Einar tries to persuade them that Sverkel is a real person and that he lent them the horse. He describes Sverkel as a short bald man. Suddenly, the other retainer realizes that Einar was telling the truth. Sverkel is the old master of the farm and Ketil's father. However, the retainers still refuse to believe that Sverkel would lend the horse to them. They explain that Sverkel is a crabby old man who doesn't like anyone and is the most important person on the farm. As Einar and Thorfinn begin to prepare the land, they quickly realize that they need a plow. Fortunately, they manage to borrow one and start working. However, as the clouds gather and rain looms on the horizon, Einar spots some roots and decides that it's best to call it a day to avoid damaging the plow. While they return the borrowed plow, Einar notices several heavy plows in a nearby field and counts up to 10, remarking on the wealth of their owner. Thorfinn is curious about the cost of a plow and Einar confirms that they can be quite expensive. In his village, 8 families shared a single plow, so the fact that Sverkel had one was a luxury. Thorfinn is impressed by the plow's design and wonders if a farmer invented it. As the rain starts to pour down, the two pick up their pace to return the plow before the storm gets worse. Ketil pays a visit to Sverkel and expresses his concerns about the old man's well-being. He worries that Sverkel keeps pushing himself too hard, and points out that he recently collapsed on the farm. Sverkel insists on living alone, as he doesn't want to argue with anyone. Meanwhile, Einar and Thorfinn are outside, hesitant to interrupt the conversation. When Kettle exits the house, he spots the two and questions what they're doing there. Kettle then turns to Sverkel and warns him against treating Einar and Thorfinn like slaves. As Kettle departs, Sverkel invites Einar and Thorfinn inside, where he offers them the chance to wash their wet clothes. As they search for the wash basin, Einar is surprised to find Snake asleep in the back of the room, having slept through Kettle and Sverkel's argument. When he smells the scent of Sverkel's cooking, Snake wakes up and berates him for trying to eat alone. Spotting Einar and Thorfinn, he questions why they're there in the first place. Sverkel sets the table and scolds Snake for only being awake during mealtimes and eating too much, despite not working on the farm. Snake explains that he and his men are patrolling the farm at night to protect it from thieves. He then invites Einar and Thorfinn to come and eat, insisting that the food isn't fancy enough to be shy about. Sverkel also invites the two men, recognizing that they've worked hard today and deserve to eat. As they eat, Einar expresses surprise that thieves are really coming. Snake confirms that they are, sometimes even armed. Sverkel argues that they can defend themselves, as there are plenty of men who are stronger than Snake. The two men continue to argue until Snake admits that the farm's fighting force is too small for its size, and even his 13 men have their hands full chasing down thieves. Sverkel realizes that with 50 to 60 men, someone could easily capture the farm. Einar asks why they're not being attacked by tougher people than just thieves. Sverkel explains that King Harald's protection is in place, as Kettle sends the king an exorbitant amount of tribute twice a year. Sverkel believes that it's pointless to have more land than you can protect, and that wealth only brings misfortune. When you have wealth, you fear losing it and spend money to allay your fears, but then you need to earn even more money. As the rain stops, Snake prepares to go on patrol, but Sverkel tells him not to return. Snake assures Sverkel that he'll miss him anyway. Einar and Thorfinn head to their own quarters, feeling like they've learned a lot today. As time passes, Einar and Thorfinn begin planting. Einar suggests that Thorfinn spread more seeds, but Thorfinn hesitates, worried they don't have enough. Einar reassures him to trust him and reminds him that they are friends. This catches Thorfinn off guard and he questions Einar's statement, prompting Einar to express his surprise and repeat that they are indeed friends. Thorfinn then smiles and starts spreading the seeds, affirming their friendship. And with that, we conclude this episode.